Okay, welcome to Year 8 Science Online with Henny van Vieren. Okay, hello again, guys. I hope you enjoyed the previous lesson on teeth and how you learnt about the different incisors and the canines and the molars. Today we're going to look a little bit closer at animal teeth specifically and how the diet of various animals have a direct effect on the shape of their jaw and the shape of their teeth. So, here we go. Okay, so as mentioned earlier, your front teeth are the incisors, the ones that cut. Okay, think about yourself eating a sandwich. You don't stick it in the side of your mouth and rip it apart. You actually cut it neatly with your incisors. And then you use your tongue to push it around towards the molars and then you chew it on the molars. Okay, so, but if you're eating a very tough, I don't know, like a zombie chew or something, where do you put it? You put it towards your canines and your premolars and you kind of like rip it off. Okay, ripping and tearing. That's what we do. Now, what are we? Are we carnivores or are we herbivores? Carnivores eat only meat. Herbivores eat only plant material. No, we are omnivores. Now, we are kind of a combination of the teeth of carnivores and herbivores. So we need these molars to grind the plant material so that we can get all the stuff out of there. Think about your wheat picks. I talked about fiber and roughage. So to grind through those cell walls of the plant material, we need to have the molars. Our canines is there so that we can rip pieces of meat and rip pieces of tough food that we're eating. And then our incisors are to bite the bigger pieces of plant material mainly into smaller material. And obviously these days food because we're much more civilized. But you have to remember molars, incisors and canines. Okay, so let's have a look at these guys. These guys are all predators and they're specifically carnivores. Now these, again, they are not fangs, they are called canines. Okay, the canines are very big when you're looking at carnivores. It's because they use these canines to bite into their prey and rip pieces of meat off. Now, isn't that funny to think that the canine unit from the police, have you ever heard of that? Canine? The canine unit from the police is where we have, it's a K and a 9. Okay, and the canine unit is the dog unit because it is about these canine teeth. And ironically, not ironically, but what I love even more is that the wolf, in this case, and the dog, the scientific name for the wolf is Canis lupus. Canis lupus. Canis from the word canine. And for the dog, it is Canis lupus familiaris, which means wolf that is now family. Okay? Or wolf that is very familiar. So Canis lupus and Canis lupus familiaris refers to the canine teeth in them. Alrighty. Now when you look at Panthera leo over here, look at those amazing, amazing teeth. And look at the front. Can you see this is not for biting things or cutting. It is more for biting things off and ripping it and getting a good grip on it. It's like if this was on hands, it would have been claws. And look at the molars. Those molars are not there to grind things down. Those are to cut it into smaller pieces. Just to, and then they swallow huge chunks of meat whole that goes into their tummies. Now, what about the herbivores? How do they look? Llama. This is the. I don't like llamas. Anything that spits is not my favorite. But anyway, looking at these, can you see that their incisors are flat and they are for cutting? Because what does a horse eat? It eats grass. So it's putting its face close to the ground and then cutting the grass with its scissors. Cutting. And way back in its mouth is where the molars are. and it takes that grass, it doesn't have a lot of nutrients in it, and chews and chews and chews and chews, just like, what do we say, that cows and so on, that ruminants, they will chew the cud, and they're basically chewing and chewing and chewing, getting all the nutrients out of there. Okay, and same thing here with this zebra. You can see that if you count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, so those would be the normal incisors, but there's no long canines. Okay, this would have been a canine if it was a predator, and that is definitely an incisor. Okay, so those are herbivores, but we always get the exception to the rule, and the next ones I'm just showing to you for interest sake. So they are exceptions to the rule. Now the first one, which I absolutely love, and it's gorgeous, it's called the muntjac, or Chinese water deer. They are actually two different types of deer, and they are basically the size of a medium-sized dog. They're the Chinese water deer is about the size of a spaniel, or maybe a smallish Labrador, and the muntjac is probably a little bit smaller than the Labrador as well. But they are still herbivores, which means they still eat only grass and leaves. But they've developed these amazing canines. Look at those. That's awesome. They don't have any antlers or horns. They just have these canines. And that's all about impressing the girls, getting the ladies. Okay? And it's not for defense or anything like that. It's definitely not for hunting. It is just about impressing the girls and scaring off the other boys who want to make passes on their girls. So the muntjac and the Chinese water deer. Next one I want to show you is a pig, and this is called the Barbarossa pig. Now these poor things, no, I don't have any idea why they would have grown in this way, but if you look at these are their canines. Now remember, pigs, like humans, are omnivores, so they will have incisors at the front, and then they would have their canines, and then they would have molars at the back. But these things, I mean, look at that. The canines over here come straight through their skull, which is awful. And sometimes these tips actually will grow back into the skull, and that can really hurt them or even kill them if it gets into the brain. So you only find them on one small island. I think it's the island of Barbarossa. But if I see this thing at night, I will run like the clappers. Seriously, scary, scary, scary. Okay, next one I want to show you, again we go back to the baboon. Now over here you can see this is a youngish baboon, and these are the big males. Now the big males, the reason why they have these amazing fangs, did you hear what I said? I said fangs. It's not fangs, sir. These are canines. Okay, the reason for these canines are for, number one, fighting and defense, and scaring off competition and scaring off the enemy. Okay, they are not necessarily for hunting, but if you do want to see a video of baboons hunting, there's a troop of baboons in Central Africa that actually started hunting flamingos. So because also they are omnivores, they will eat meat and they will eat food. Okay, so if you want to go and just Google baboon hunt flamingo, and I'm sure you will get the video. It's really interesting to watch. But yeah, so look at this guy. Very similar to humans, isn't it? Two big front teeth. All I want for Christmas are my two front teeth. And then you have the other two incisors, and can you see there the canines are just like ours, slightly bigger, and then behind them you have the premolars and the molars where they will grind them down. Have a look again at this Cape baboon. You can quite clearly see those are molars, definitely to grind them down. Here's your canine, there's a premolar for ripping and tearing, okay, and here's your incisors. So you can see how similar it is because they are omnivores. Does anybody know what this animal is? Yeah, it's called a tapir, and they are from South and Central America. Unfortunately quite endangered. But look at their teeth. If you look at their teeth, what kind of diet do you think they follow? Are they herbivores Are they carnivores or are they omnivores? If you look carefully, you'll see that the front, those are incisors. Look at the canines, they're larger. And then towards the back they would have molars. So that tells us that these are omnivores as well. Okay, check out this amazing snout. It's almost like it's a mini elephant trunk. Okay, the top here. Hoping that some of you have never heard of this before and find it interesting. Then the crocodile and the alligator and the cayman. Have you guys ever heard of the Cayman Islands? The Cayman Islands are not the neat reason why they got their name is because of caimans, and the caimans are these smallish crocodile alligatorish things with long snouts, and that's there's some of them found there on the Cayman Islands, and hence they are called the Cayman Islands. Okay, but do you see any molars? No. Can you tell me which one is the canine? It looks like they're just a mouthful of canines. Do you see any incisors? Okay, so if I had to take a wild guess, I would imagine that would be the canines. But can you see these guys are basically built just to rip chunks of meat off their prey. If you want to see that in action, go and look for a video that is all about the annual migration of the wildebeest in the Masai Mara. And there's these enormous Nile crocodiles that lie in a big river and just wait for the wildebeest to come every year. And when they come, they just feast, because the wildebeest have no other choice but to go through this river, and then the giant crocodiles just grab them. The majority of the wildebeest obviously make it through, but the crocodiles don't get a lot of feeding throughout the year. This is their major feeding time. Really amazing imagery that you can see there. If you just go and Google crocodiles and wildebeest annual migration. Anyways, and here's one. Narwhals swimming in the ocean, making a commotion because they are so awesome. Narwhals swimming in the ocean, just like an underwater unicorn. Okay, I'll stop. But, oh man, I love narwhals. They are so cool. And did you know that one of their front incisors grows out of their front of their skull and turns into this amazing unicorn spike? That is a tooth. It's not a horn. Okay, it is a tooth. Now, some males have it, some females have it, some males don't have it, some females don't have it. It's very strange. We don't understand a lot, but they have seen recorded incidents of narwhals using them as a swishing weapon, kind of to swipe at something when hunting. It's not necessarily a spearing weapon. Scientists at this stage believe that it is simply there to impress the girls. But yeah, it is really, really interesting. I love narwhals. I only learnt about them in the last 10 years of my life. Didn't even know these things existed. But yeah. Okay, so another strange toothed animal. Now, when we look at the skulls, and over here you can see a brown hyena, and the brown hyena has got the strongest bite of any mammal. Not any animal, but any mammal. The animal with the strongest bite, anybody know what that is? It's actually the snapping turtle. Okay, I think it's the giant snapping turtle, but it's a snapping turtle. And what they do is they actually measure the force that the teeth themselves exert on something. And the snapping turtle has got this beak, and it's really, really strong. But what I want you guys to do is I want you to take your hand and look at the picture of me in the corner of the screen now. Take your hand and put it above your ear so that your fingers are touching above your ear, right there where your temple is. And now chew down on your teeth. Can you feel the movement under your fingers? Now that's called your temporal muscle, okay? Where your temple is, your temporal muscle. And that is actually the muscle that we use to chew. That muscle goes all the way from where it sits here in the temple, behind this is called the zygomatic arch, your cheekbone, down towards your mandible. So it basically is like a cable that pulls it up. Now, why does this gorilla It's a male gorilla skull. Why do they have this weird bone mohawk? And this hyena, it's got this weird bone mohawk. The reason for that is that they have very, very, very strong temporal muscles. That muscle that you just felt under your fingers, in gorillas and in hyenas, they are really big. So they need space to put them in. And that space is taken up by a muscle. For us, because we started cooking food and we invented fire, our food became softer and softer. So we don't need these huge things anymore. But gorillas, they can chew on lots of plant material. And hyenas, as you know, they can break bones and all that type of stuff. So they need really strong jaws. So that is why we call this the sagittal crest. You don't have to know that, but just for interest's sake, look at that big space there for that muscle for chewing. Okay. Alright guys, so that was different teeth of different animals and how it's based upon their diet. I hope you found this interesting, and I will soon set up a video conference for us, or a telephone conference for us, that we can chat about all the things we're learning so far in nutrition, and that we can check that we are covering everything that we need to cover before we get into the test. Okay, so I hope you guys are keeping safe and keeping sane and being kind to each other. And thank you for your diligence and that you want to work. Alright. Hey guys, keep well. I'll chat to you again soon.